We're here at Rockingham Motor Speedway, located in Northamptonshire, one of Europe's fastest circuits. Welcome to Thundersport GB.
We're at the Rockingham Motor Speedway on the international circuit, and it's time for the RST Motorcycle Clothing Golden Era Superbikes, a championship new for 2012, and that man there is running away with it. Lee Reevely, number 77 on the Aprilia Melee, has a huge lead over Richard Blunt, who's second. There he is, number 13 on the SRAD 750 Suzuki, big wave. Richard also competing in the Thundersport 500 Championship, third on the grid. Despite the colour, it is a Kawasaki ZX7R for Rob Wilson, number 57. And then we've got number 3, new entry for this weekend. Number 3, that is Louis Dawson. And you may have seen him in the Aprilia 450 Championship this season. Louis from Highley on the Ducati Wolverhampton 748. Now that, if you recall back, is actually a bike that shouldn't be able to live up to the expectations of these guys at the front of this, because it is down on power. The 748, of course, was used back in the heyday in the Supersport 600 Championship. So he's down on power, he's certainly not down on talent. That's why he's up on the front row. It's not a great start from Lee Reevely, the championship leader. He came into this event with over 200 points as his advantage, and if he has a good run here, he could wrap up the title at Anglesey, which is next up. But it's Richard Blunt who seems to get away off the line so well. The acceleration of that SRAD Suzuki powering him away, as he is your race leader. A number of different bikes here then from the 80s and 90s in the golden era superbike days. The days of Scott Russell, Foggy. You think back to all those great races. Well, we're looking to try and replicate them here. There's been a couple of casualties throughout the season. When I say casualties, I mean people like Keith Smith, who didn't crash his bike but fell off a balcony in Mexico and can't be with us, and hopefully will be back racing again soon. Rumours have it that him and Ian Popperwell from Street Fighters will be fighting it out in this class next year. But back up to the front there's Rob Wilson on the Kawasaki ZX7R, up the inside of Richard Blunt. Lee Reevely on the Aprilia Melee there in third place. So we have, what's that, 4 different manufacturers in the top 4, which is always great to see. Under the start, finish straight they go. Rob Wilson it is that leads from Blunt. Lee Reevely in third place, and in fact that's now Craig Jeff, number 16 on the all-white Aprilia Melee. Yes, he moves up the inside of Lee Reevely. Further back you've got Jason Dixon, who's got off to a decent start, number 62 on the GSX-R, but it's Rob Wilson that leads this one still. The rider from Immingham on the end of Tech Rob Speed Kawasaki. Oh, tight there. There's a rider running on in the background. Not quite sure who that was, but there is luckily quite a bit of runoff there at Dean Hairpin, so he will be able to rejoin whoever it was. But it's Wilson from Blunt. Alongside me in the commentary booth, I'm Steve Day, is Richard Day. Yes, he is my father, and he also happens to be the director, co-director of Thundersport GB. Sid, this championship new for 2012. Not the biggest of grids that we've got here today at Rockingham. We've had quite a high attrition rate in this class throughout the season, which has sort of meant that despite having, what, some sort of 40 or 50 different riders entering this championship, they've not all entered at the same weekend because some of them are getting injured.
Broken bikes. We had 220 different riders interested in this, and largely it's gone very well. I'm very pleased with it. I can announce that for 2013 we will also have Golden Era Supersport. So the likes of Louis Dawson now on the 748 will be in perfect form for that. Depending on the grids next year will depend whether it's on the back of this grid or whether it's got its own separate grid. We have had sort of 45 different riders in this class over the season, and if they were all here together we wouldn't have enough room on the grid. However, as you say, there's been attrition, there's been broken bikes and some of the guys that have brought the RC45s and so on across and haven't enjoyed scraping them on the tarmac or in the kitty litter. But it's been very good, and I think that it's a class for the future. It really, really does give the old imagination a jolt for the riders and the public, and there's a lot of riders that are thinking of coming into this.
You're looking there at number 94, Phil Page, having a good fight with the Duck Slayer. There's a new one. Having a fight against Charlie Flett, both regular faces in the Thundersport GB paddock. They're fighting away for points a bit further back. We saw Jason Dixon a little while ago. At the front of this, it's Rob Wilson with a good lead over Richard Blunt now. Kawasaki versus Suzuki. There they go. And then that scrap for a prettier domination between Craig Jeff and Lee Reevely. Then Louis Dawson getting his nose up there, doing very well to keep up with championship leader Lee Reevely on that Ducati 748. So presumably, Sid, this Golden Era Superbikes, there is an age limit as to what machinery you're allowed to use.
Well, there is, and it's basically, we want the era. It's the ethos of the era. And so probably the newest machine in the Golden Era Superbikes, and probably the biggest weapon of choice, purely because of the budget side of it, is the Miele 1000. And you can get them a 2001 model. That's about as new as it goes. With the Super Sport that's coming on, you could probably get a machine, say an R6 that was not registered until 2002, although it will be sort of an up to a 2001 model. But mainly these are sort of 90s bikes. I mean, this Rob Wilson's Quacker here, I mean, he's done a great job, gradually got it set up. And I mean, Lee Reevely, who's basically had this all to himself and he's had it all his own way, he's now having the races taken to him now. There's guys coming in who are prepared to battle with him and give it loads.
So presumably in the Golden Era Super Sport, which will be coming in next year, I mean, if you cast your mind back, folks, to 2001, 2002 seasons where Super Sport came into play, we had the Honda Fireblade, which has always been a bike up there, so we'll be seeing those. The R6 came into prominence, didn't it, around that era. The new model of this GSXR.
Fireblade's 900, of course. CBR 600.
CBR 600,
yeah. You mean, yeah.
The Yamaha R6, of course, as I just mentioned. The new model of the GSXR, of course, came out at that time. Ducati 748s, as you're seeing here with Louis Dawson, having a good go on them. So a number of these machines could be up there and fighting.
You can buy them so cheaply. This is the thing, and I believe you mentioned to me earlier, Steve, that you know, some of the machines you've seen up for sale, you know, around sort of 1,100 to 1,500 pounds.
Yeah, you can buy a decent Kawasaki ZX6, I think 98, 99 for around about £1,100 these days. That's a cheap bike to be going racing on.
And of course, with those, you use treaded tyres because that is what the rules are for them, and so there's a lot more of the tyres around. You don't have to maybe buy scrubs or buy the new slicks. Oh,
it's a fascinating battle. This has been going on since the start of the race. That's Craig Jeff and Lee Reevely fighting it out. Leading the race still, Rob Wilson. Richard Blunt in second place. Richard Blunt will close up on a couple of points on Reevely overall if he finishes where he is. He'll hope that Craig Jeff can squeeze himself in between himself and Lee Reevely. Nick Williamson's out there. Louis Dawson still in the top 6. Matt Wilde out there on the Triumph 955. Of course, the Triumph Daytona was used in the 600s as well back in 2001, 2002, so the original one. So that would be, if you think back to the Jack Valentine, Jim Moody and the late Craig Jones special back in 2002 and 3, that would be able to be used, I'm sure. Last lap flag out here, though, for the Golden Era Superbikes at Rockingham, and through the first chicane goes Rob Wilson. This has been a faultless effort here from Wilson, who's 5th in the championship, so helping his championship cause here. We'll be hoping. He's not got much of a chance of winning it overall, but could certainly sneak into the top 3.
I'll tell you what, though, Richard, Craig and Lee are having quite a battle there, the three of them together.
Yeah, that fight is for second place, and Richard Blunt could do with holding on to second. If he wants any remote chance of winning this championship, he needs to finish in as many races ahead of Lee Reevely as possible. There is your race leader, though, Rob Wilson, on the Endotech Kawasaki, looking to make his way up now out of Gracelands towards Tarzan chicane. the background then. Let's have a look and see what that fight is doing. It is Blunt still. And Craig Jeff has just gone up the inside of Lee Reevely as they exit Tarzan and make their way up towards Brook Chicane.
I think Lee is going to struggle to podium here.
On to the start-finish straight they go, and it is Rob Wilson that wins this one. A good win for him. Richard Blunt's going to take second. Craig Jeff does take third.
Indeed.
So Lee Reevely is in fourth place and off the podium. That's uncharacteristic for the Super Twin champion of 2010 and 11. There is Nick Williamson in fifth place. Nick currently third overall in the championship. And Louis Dawson, a good effort on the Ducati 748. He finishes in sixth overall. There's your very happy winner, though, with company. Rob Wilson in the middle, Blunt to the left, and Jeff on the right.
Third position, Craig Jeff in the RST Golden Era Superbikes. How did that feel for you?
Absolutely fantastic. After ups and downs yesterday, it's just really rewarding because I've been consistent of it last meeting and yesterday, and I knew I could do it. So to repay all my family and my dad for my tyre, just absolutely fantastic.
Another podium in the next race?
Hope so. See what I can do.
Anyone to thank?
Well, like I say, thank my dad for all hard work on spanners, treating me to a new tyre yesterday, and myself for all hard work.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, thank you.
Second position in the RST Golden Era Superbikes, Richard Blunt. Second position, do you reckon you get a first in the next race?
Oh, I definitely pushed for it. We had a bit of a problem with the back end starting to give way in the last race, and we've had a look at the tyre and it's well past dead, so fingers crossed we'll either have a wet race or maybe get a new tyre, but yeah, I'll definitely be hunting him down, going for the win.
How was this race for you at Rockingham?
Oh, it's been absolutely fantastic. It took a while to get used to the track, but yeah, I think we're getting there now on the lap times, knocking the seconds off, so maybe.
Excellent. Anyone to thank?
Yeah, big thanks to my dad, who's brought us down this weekend, and without this I wouldn't have any of this fun out on track. A big thanks to Neil at Sigma Slipper Clutches as well, sorted us with the clutch and putting up with me all week trying to get the thing installed, so massive thanks to him. Equar Motorcycles for helping us set up the bike, and another thanks to Dan, my mechanic, for the weekend, so thank you.
Thank you. Winner of the RST Golden Era Superbikes, Rob Wilson, one of the closest races we've had. How did you find that?
Hard and very hot.
Hard and very hot. You've got a little supporter with you today. Anyone else with you?
Yeah, my fiancée Michelle, and this is Max, my crew chief. So we've been well, it's been hard. Another race to go yet, so we'll see how we go.
Another win?
Well, that's the plan, but I don't know what the weather's going to do, to be honest. It's looking a bit grey for this afternoon, so we'll have to sort of play it by ear, I think.
Any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, Steve at Endotech, MH Pneumatics, the lads at Whole Beach Tyres, they've been helping me out this weekend. And this is a special thanks to Carl, my sponsor. He passed away a couple of weeks ago, so that one's free.
We're sorry to hear. We hope you can get another win in the next race. Thanks very much.
Moped, sports bikes, you save watts. Any bike, it makes no odds. We will give you what you need. Best price always guaranteed. Come to us and get a quote. You'll be singing note for note. Walk away with cash to spend on anything you want, my friend. Bike Insurer, Bike Insurer, Bike Insurer.
Get the cheapest bike insurance, guaranteed, only from the Bike Insurer.
Welcome back to Thundersport GB, the RST Clothing Golden Era Superbikes up next, a class for bikes of old. If you remember back into the 90s, all of these machines fighting away back in the days of Scott Russell, Carl Fogarty. There's the S-Rad Suzuki of Richard Blunt. Lee Reevely we saw on pole position, of course, the championship leader. Number of riders there on some classy machines. There's number 3, Louis Dawson. Louis Dawson out there, a former 450 rider on a Ducati 748. So nice to have him on the grid. 57 Rob Wilson there on that Dayglow orangey pinky red Kawasaki. Third on the grid. Lee Reevely heads the championship coming into Rockingham, 428 points. He had a 207-point advantage over Richard Blunt, number 13, and it's Blunt that gets away quickest on his Suzuki 750, with Wilson in second on the Kawasaki ZXR 7. Filtering through, we've got Craig Jeff out there, Nick Williamson, Jason Dixon, Adam Palfreman, Marcel Brinkman, Paul Maxfield, Phil Page, Charlie Flett, Matt Wildy, and around the outside there into Dean, that left-handed hairpin, comes Rob Wilson, and he has the inside line then, heading into Yentwood. Bank the bike over on the right, but here comes Blunt, maybe up the inside again. No, not quite, as they head around Chapman Curve and now into Piff Paff, the left-hander. Number 62 there, that's Jason Dixon, just hovering outside the top 5. Jason currently 4th overall in the championship. He's got a decent enough lead ahead of Rob Wilson, but Rob Wilson here leading the race. Lee Reevely now the championship leader, up to 2nd place. Of course, Lee Reevely had engine problems back at Snetterton and was done the biggest favour I've ever seen in Thundersport GB history. His nearest championship rival, Nick Williamson at the time, lent him a bike to compete the rest of the weekend in. Well, it's resulted in Lee being in a position where a couple of good results here and a decent result at Anglesey, and he could be crowned champion for the 4th time. And that's, well, he's already got a record at Thundersport GB. He holds more titles than any other rider, but that would be going some. But at the moment, they've all got a job on to catch up with the Kawasaki rider of Rob Wilson, number 57, Rob from Immingham, riding on the Endotech Kawasaki. There's Louis Dawson on the 748. 748, of course, a bike that was used back in the heyday in the 600 class, 748, and so it will be down on power compared to these bikes, but it does still have a little bit of grunt. And Louis Dawson, a young rider with Aprilia Superteen experience as well as Aprilia RRV 450 experience also. He's out there riding number 3, the rider from Highley. It's the Ducati Wolverhampton, the sponsor that he's been carrying throughout his career so far, but at the front it's still Wilson from the E2E Solutions Aprilia of Lee Reevely. There's number 81, Marcel Brinkman from Newmarket. And Richard Blunt there, just tucked in between, not doing so bad himself. There's number 6, Nick Williamson, slightly different colour scheme for him this weekend, up ahead of Craig Jeff and Louis Dawson. Around Gracelands they go, and those of you that remember the end of the 2009 Thundersport GB Championship, just after Gracelands was the start-finish straight on the inner circuit that we used a couple of years ago. This is slightly redesigned this year, so it's the first time that motorcycles have ever used this circuit here at Rockingham, and the facilities have improved somewhat in the paddock since Thundersport's last visit. And what I like about this new circuit being on the calendar is it throws a bit of a curveball at a number of the riders. Some riders turn up to circuits having a lot of experience, whether they live locally, but no rider will have come to this circuit having experience. So it really does separate the men from the boys, and just possibly gives a couple of riders a chance to close in on the championship as we enter the final 3 rounds. Of course, Anglesey up next in North Wales, before heading over to Lincolnshire, Cadwell Park, the mountain course, and finishing up at Thundersport GB's home, Mallory Park. There's Adam Palfreman, a rider that races in pretty much as many classes as he can actually put himself in for. He must be shattered at the end of each weekend, but back at the front of the Golden Era Superbike, sponsored by RST Clothing, it is number 57, Rob Wilson, but he's coming under pressure now from the championship leader, Lee Reevely. Lap times currently in and around the 130s, mid-130s. Circuit length here, 1.94 miles. Rob Wilson currently with a slightly faster lap than Lee Reevely. And you know what? Just behind these guys, Richard Blunt, he's getting a shift on. He's just put in his fastest lap of the race, a 1:29.6. He's the first man into the 29s. He might have just left it a bit late here, but there's a good chance if he keeps on lapping in the 1:29, so he could catch up with the leading duo here. Lee Reevely making a move as he down into Dean. Really hard on the brakes, having been pretty much flat out. It's definitely a second gear corner, probably only 40 or 50 miles an hour before getting back on the power again, and 90 degrees right-hander here into Yentwood. And then just a short charge up now towards Chapman Curve. Right-hander that just seems to drag on a little longer than some riders anticipate. change direction of the bike in slippery conditions. This is a tough corner to contemplate. Piff paff, then into the, well, it's called a steel straight, but it's certainly not a straight as we look at Jason Dixon again there, number 62. They then head into Gracelands before going into Tarzan. Rob Wilson it is that still leads. Lee Reevely fancies his chances around the outside. Maybe Rob Wilson not quite as quick into Tarzan as he'd have liked, and they're now side by side as they head onto the school straight before tipping into the left-right flick at Brook Chicane, and it's still Wilson just hanging on to it as they head into turn 4. Pit entry is just on the left there, but no sign of any riders going in there at the moment. Back onto the start-finish straight they go now. Rob Wilson, number 57 it is, that leads from Lee Reevely, and Lee Reevely's running out of chances. There's plenty of places to overtake here at Rockingham. It's one of the few circuits on the Thundersport GD calendar where you could probably pick 4 or 5 places over the 2-mile course where there are great overtaking manoeuvres to be made. There is one into Dean. Richard Blunt is closing on these two. You can just see him as they exit Dean. You'll see Blunt just exiting it also. Now into Yentwood, a right-hander. Not so much an enormous chance for overtaking there, but good to get some corner entry speed before heading into Chapman Curve. Definitely not a place to be overtaking. And then change direction of the bike into Piff Paff. Onto the steel straight they go, and then into Gracelands. There's Blunt catching in 3rd place. In 4th, it's still Nick Williamson, Craig Jeff, and Louis Dawson. Louis Dawson's putting in some decent laps, though, on that 748. What he's losing on the straights, he's making up for under braking and corner speed. Back with our leaders, though. 57 it is, the Kawasaki ZX-7R of Rob Wilson, ahead of the Aprilia Miele of Lee Reevely, and once again Reevely picks up that Aprilia Miele and tries to use the power of the Aprilia, but it's not working. You know, that Kawasaki is not slow as we pan back now to Adam Palfreman in 8th place on the Honda. Out of Tarzan and onto the school straight before heading into Brook Chicane, but here are your race leaders once more. Lee Reevely just trying everything he can now he's even taking different lines to Rob Wilson, trying to find a way through. And Craig Jeff has lost the place there to Louis Dawson, so the number 3 rider on the Ducati 748 is making good progress here. He's just closing in, and if Louis Dawson can get himself in the top 5, that's a solid result. Is there going to be a change for the lead? Lee Reevely there, outbrakes himself, has to sit it up, and he was lucky he didn't touch the front end as they head into Tarzan, and so an overtaking manoeuvre scuppered. Still Rob Wilson it is that leads into this chicane, but a deep entry there for Wilson on the Kawasaki. Not long to go, and look in the background there, Blunt is catching all the while. Has he left it too late? I fear that he has. Around onto the oval they go, and down the start-finish straight. The last lap flag has been shown, so last chance for Lee Reevely to make a move, and he's got some good corner entry speed into the chicane there, the first chicane on this Rockingham circuit. Is he going to have a look up the inside now into Dean? Rob Wilson's late on the brakes also. It's going to be a block pass from Lee Reevely. Can he get it stood up? They almost touch. Oh, and Lee Reevely has to pick it up again. Rob Wilson saying, no, you don't, mate. I'm not having that. Back up the inside, and this has given Richard Blunt a chance at a bite at the cherry on this final lap. Just half a lap to go now as they head into Chapman Curve. There's only realistically one more place that Lee Reevely can make an overtaking manoeuvre, and that's into Tarzan around Piff Paff, and he is all over the back of him. Meanwhile, further back there is number 6 Nick Williamson, who's lost a number of places there. Louis Dawson is up into the top 4, so great result for him. The riders now make their way out of Gracelands and into Tarzan. That was the last chance, but defended well there by Rob Wilson. Reevely takes the wide entry, which is going to get him the drive out of the corner there and onto the straight, but that Kawasaki's got the pace, and look at Richard Blunt. Does he fancy a bite at this at the end? It's going to be too late. Who can get the power on earliest now as they head around turn 4 and into the start-finish straight? There's a checkered flag, and Wilson holds on to the win and gets 25 points ahead of Lee Reevely. Richard Blunt probably a little bit upset that he couldn't get off the line quicker, and well, he came back at the end but it can only manage 3rd place. That's probably one of the best races we've seen in Golden Era Superbikes so far. In 2012, Wilson it is that wins from Reveley, Blunt in 3rd, Dawson 4th, Jeff 5th, and in 6th place, Nick Williamson. And there is a very happy Rob Wilson in the middle. Championship standings heading into Anglesey then. Reveley it is with a substantial lead still over Richard Blunt, just under 200 points. Nick Williamson 3rd.
3rd position goes to Richard Blunt in the Golden Era Superbikes, 2nd time on the podium today.
Yeah, really pleased with myself. I've got massive thanks to Paul, number 66, who's given me a old back tyre to try and keep up with these guys, and towards the end I thought I might get them, so excellent.
Any sponsors?
Yeah, massive thanks to my father as usual for getting me out there and enjoying myself. Again to Paul, number 66, for giving me that back tyre, otherwise I'd never been keeping up with these guys. So, yeah.
Well done, Richard. See you next round. And 2nd position goes to Lee Reveley. 0.6 of a second between all 3 riders. A close race.
Yeah, it's been close all weekend to be fair, and these guys are pushing. It's good fun. Yeah, good close racing.
Any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Griffith at Perla Performance, who helped me out. We blew the bike up at Snetton, and Tony at Motorcourse, Gary at STC, and everybody else who helps me out. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And the winner for a 2nd time, Rob Wilson.
That was hard.
Very hard. It was a close race.
Oh, yeah. I could hear Lee behind me, and we had a couple of near misses together, but I just trying to concentrate and just ride my own race, but it was very hard. It wasn't easy at all.
Another win at Anglesey.
Well, hopefully, but we'll just have to see what happens, won't we?
Well, good luck for next round. Any sponsors?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Steve at Endotech, Mark at Haberfab, Rob Speed Kawasaki, and everybody else who knows me, really.
Good effort there from Rob on the Kawasaki. We've still got 2 races to come here on Thundersport GB, and next up, the Doodson Motorsport 650 Open.